Welcome to another edition of the Writing Gals Trope Talk. I'm Michelle Pennington,
And I'm Victorine Liskey.
and today we're talking about enemies to lovers. Hallelujah! Finally, we get to my favorite one.
I love the enemies to lovers is your favorite.
It is, and it's weird because I don't like conflict,
Yeah,
but for
I was
some
gonna
reason,
say.
I think most of my books are enemies to lovers,
Ah,
and I think it's because there's just so much banter.
mm-hmm.
I like banter. I like when two characters are just constantly having little personality conflicts all the time, and I think that is one of the best ways to bring out chemistry. And
Yes.
so I think that's why I enjoy it so much. Most of my books
Awesome.
are probably enemies to lovers, which begs the question, how much of an enemy are we talking about here?
Ooh. Oh, well, you have to really be careful not to make it like diehard
Right.
enemies, because that can, if you have a nasty reason why they hate each other, then can be hard to make them believable that they're falling in love.
Yeah, and it can make it really hard for the readers to like your characters,
Yes.
which you have to really be careful with. It's a fine line you're walking because you're wanting to show why their clash with each other is genuine, but that it's not insurmountable and that the reader can still sympathize with both of them and see
Mm-hmm.
why both of them are still great characters with flaws, and they can also understand why they're not seeing eye to eye.
Yes.
So, how much of the conflict should be just personality, and how much of it should be like some real conflict between them?
Oh, goodness. That's a good question. Um, I'm trying to think of enemies to lovers that I've written and what I've done. I must not
Well,
like that trope. I don't think I've written that.
so for me, I think that you need to have something that keeps them from just like, "Oh, we didn't get along, but something happened, and now I'm, like, all on board." I think there definitely needs
Yes.
to be another conflict,
Mhm.
um, that is driving a lot of it. So it might be competition for a job. It might be disagreement in how something is being done or handled. It might be a viewpoint that has to do with something going on in their lives. Like, so what are the characters' goals? In an enemies to lovers romance, whatever their goal is, it should be opposite of the other one.
Mm.
There should be something inherently um like like a big wall between them, that it's more than just a personality conflict, because otherwise I think it would get boring for one thing,
Mhm.
but it also means that once you start bringing in the chemistry and the connection and all the physical intimacy that starts happening, there still has to be something that keeps them apart. And one of the reasons I say that is that people who love the enemies to lovers trope don't want them to be lovers by chapter 3.
Right.
Like, that's one of the things that I think readers hate the most is that when they get denied that conflict and that sizzle between them too soon. And
Mm.
the way to do that is to put something else between them besides just a clash of personalities.
That is a very good thing to think about. So,
So
like,
go
an
ahead.
example I thought of was You've Got Mail, because
Mhm.
her goal is to keep her store up and running, and, his goal is with his big box store and everything like that, so
Yep, definitely. And then there's, like, in the wedding planner,
mm,
where, they have, like, an immediate spark for each other, but it quickly shifts to more of, like, an enemies to lovers because he he's, like, flirting with her and trying to figure out his life and if he's really wanting to marry this woman, but, like, her goal is to get him married to someone else.
yes.
Like, her goal is in opposition to his goal, which
Yeah,
is, like, changes through the story, but it is
yeah.
like he's trying to figure out like, is this marriage what I really want? And so the more their goals are in conflict with each other, the more they spark off of each other and clash with each other.
Mhm.
even while the chemistry is flowing. Um, I had another one, 10 Things I Hate About You
Mhm.
is the same kind of thing where they just fight like cats and dogs all the way through the show,
Mhm.
um, while pretending to flirt with each other. And then at some point, they have to be like, "Okay, now how do we put this back together again?" And there's, like, this great chase scene through traffic to the airport, which if we're gonna talk about tropes that go good with an enemies to lover, I always love the airport chase scene.
Yes.
That's always a good scene trope that I like to combine with this one.
Nice.
But
So,
so
if they
Go
hate
ahead.
each other, you're gonna have some outside force that forces them together, right?
Right.
So Pride and Prejudice is another really good example
Yes.
of enemies to lovers.
Yeah.
Beauty and the Beast, enemies to lovers.
Mhm.
My Fair Lady,
Yes.
another classic example. And Runaway Bride, that's an
Yes.
oldie but a goodie.
So that's the connection or the glue or the magnet, like whatever is like pulling them together. Like in Pride and Prejudice, for a while it was just proximity and matchmaking
Yes.
on the part of Elizabeth's mother. But at some point they are separated again. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like you have to keep pulling them back into it depending on what your conflict is.
Yeah.
I really like enemies to lovers paired with workplace romances.
I like that. Yeah, that would work
Oh,
really well.
it's a good combination trope. But I also really like fish out of water ones, fish out
Mm.
of water trope combined, where for whatever reason they have to go into one or the other has to go into the other's world, and their differences are really made obvious because one of them doesn't belong there,
Mhm.
and the other can resent their differences, and you can have a whole lot of fun. So for that reason, royalty is really fun. I think it's a good enemies to lovers, and I also think that, combining it with any kind of, like, billionaire trope,
Mhm.
um, is good.
Yeah.
I like nanny romances that are
Ah,
enemies to lovers,
yes. Yes.
where they're just complete opposites of each other, and, like, there's that conflict of, like, boss employee, just layers and layers and layers of trope. I think enemies to lovers makes every other trope better. That's just that's just what I think.
So the bet trope works to stick them together, like, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Yes.
That was a good one.
And
Let's
then
see.
I think one of the fun parts of enemies to lovers is, again, what are the other characters doing around them?
Mhm.
You know, is there a matchmaker? Is there another love interest? Is there somebody who, for whatever reason, is going to stand to lose if those two get together and plays villain and like pulls them apart, which happens a lot in royalty
Mm, yes.
versions of it. Um, like the queen doesn't want her son to marry this commoner, that kind of
Yep.
thing. So you get that forbidden thing and an antagonist. I always think it's fun when you can add an antagonist. Know that like we don't really have very many villains
Yes.
in a romance. But if you can add one in, then it really helps to um, beef up your conflict, and
I agree.
that's helpful.
I agree 100%. All
Yes.
right, any last words about enemies to lovers?
Well, I mean, I could just go on and on about it all day long. It's so much fun. But yeah, I think one of the really fun parts of it is, again, that moment where one of them realizes, "I don't hate this person." But wait,
Yes.
I'm supposed to hate this person. I want to hate this person, but I'm not hating this person.
Yeah.
And I think that it's fun when their first, like, kiss or, like, physical connection is angry and frustrated. Is that
Yeah.
weird of me? Like,
No, I we've all seen the During the fight, they'd stop and kiss.
Yes. Like, it just builds up, and you think this fight is building up to some kind of, like, "I'm never gonna talk to you again," but it's, like, the opposite, like, that's
Yes.
what propels them forward in the romance, and, you can go into, like, deep layers of psychology there
Mhm.
as to why that works, but so much of the time, I think the, um, enemy's part starts to become armor for them.
Yeah.
Like, at first, it's just, like, an annoying thing, they just don't like this person, but at some point, they use that, um, feeling of hate or, "This person's my enemy," that clash as armor against a romantic relationship that they see is going to have problems because
Yes.
of the other conflicts that you've brought into it. Or maybe because of like whatever wound they have from the past. So we could have your wounded hero and then he's grumpy, so you can combine your grumpy sunshine trope in there too, but like that armor that they put against each other and then they fight and fight and fight, and then it just crumbles to dust around them because it
Mhm.
was never real, and the relationship or the romance, the feelings have become more real to them
Mhm.
and more important. Yeah. So, anyways, love this one. I'm sure you guys do too because how could you not?
Right?
But we will save this enemies to lovers for like you to explore on your own because we have to move on to another trope.
Yes.
And next week, we're going to talk about boss employee. What do you call this? What do you call this trope? Like, what title have you given it?
I think just boss/employee.
So I've seen it called like a CEO romance a lot, but it doesn't have to. So it's like, I guess CEO is like under the umbrella of boss
Mm,
employee. So we'll have a lot of fun talking about it because I think there's a lot more to this trope than meets the eye. So be
awesome.
sure and come back next week on Trope Talk Tuesday. I think we're gonna try to do it on Tuesdays, so you can join us, and in the meantime, our conference is going on this week. It
Yes.
starts tomorrow by the time this airs, and so you can still register for it.
Yes.
Don't be late, don't waste your chance.
And if you want a link that gets you $50 off, type "Give me a link" in the comments below, and we will put
Ooh,
a link down there.
nice. I love that. Everybody needs that in this economy, don't they?
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today. And be sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying Trope Talk. And we will see you next week.
All right. Bye.